Morning, everyone. It's great to see so many of you. I hope that you are all doing well today. I, for one, am really glad that the sun is out just a little bit more now. Waking up this morning and actually seeing the sun before sun rising as I'm getting out of bed. The sun's still up in the evenings when I'm coming home from work. I've put the bike lights away. It just makes for a much nicer feeling week. And the other night I'd put the girls to bed, got two young girls, they were both asleep, and I had the boys, and I was looking out the window, and I was just looking at the sunset, and I could see it. This is Portsmouth, so it's all in context, but I could see it, shining over the prison. It's not a prison anymore, it's houses, but and with the Spinnaker Tower in the background. And I said to them, "Oh, boys, doesn't it look lovely, all the oranges and pinks, especially like with the Spinnaker Tower kind of lit up?" And they were like, "What are you talking about?" And so I knelt down beside them, and I realized that they couldn't see the Spinnaker Tower at all. They could just about make out kind of the top of the orange color. And so I had to take it in turns to lift them onto my shoulders, let them kind of have a look around, and then we're like, "Oh, yeah, that does look nice." And for them, just being that little bit smaller, unfortunately meant that they really couldn't appreciate the sunset just as much as I did. They needed their perspective to be changed. This morning, our text that we're going to look through is hopefully going to do the same thing for us. It's going to help us to see a bit more about Jesus and who he is, but from heaven's perspective. What does Jesus look like when he's in heaven? What does he look like when he comes into the throne room of the Father? This series so far, as Fergal just said, we're drawing it to an end. This is our last in it up to this point. Hopefully we will pick it back up in the future. But so far, the majority of our time we've spent in 7 letters to the churches. And that's where Jesus is speaking to the church, and he's saying, for the context and the environment that you're in, this is what I have to say to you. This is my encouragement for you. This is some of the things where maybe you could think about doing things a little bit differently. And then last week, Dan helped us to step back, and he pointed us up to the throne room and described and looked through what was in the throne room and what was there. And we started to see what does all of this look like? What's going on in heaven? Is all of this other thing that's playing out in earth? What's the heavenly view on all of this? And this week now we're going to see Jesus come into the scene. And again, there is a lot of descriptive and pictorial language. It's very imaginative. It conjures up images in our heads. And so it's important that we remember that this isn't just so that we would have a picture in our heads of what the throne room looks like. This isn't here just for information. The very beginning of Revelation, the first chapter, one of the first things we said was in Revelation 1 verse 3. It says, "Blessed are those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep it." This description, this opening our eyes to see things from heaven's view, is for our good. This is to bless us. This morning, hopefully, we'll know a little bit more about the throne room. We'll know a little bit more about Jesus, and they're good things. But something that's better is that hopefully we will encounter Jesus through his living word to us. That he will meet with us. He will speak to our hearts. He will take his word and bring it alive in us. And by his Holy Spirit, he will help us to see Jesus even more clearly for who he really is. And so before I read the passage this morning, I just want to pray. Because as we read through it, I want to ask that God really would speak it into our hearts. Father, I pray by your Spirit, would you illuminate your word to us this morning? Would you help us to see how it points to your Son? And would you help us to have heaven's perspective on who Jesus is? I pray that we come with our preconceived ideas, but that we would this morning stop and just listen to what it is, who it is that you are revealing that Jesus is to us. And I ask this in your holy name. Amen. Amen. So we're going to read the verses. We're going to be reading from chapter 5, verses 1, all the way through to the end. So, then I saw in the right hand of the one seated on the throne a scroll with writing on both sides, sealed with 7 seals. I also saw a mighty angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals?" But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or even to look in it. I wept and wept because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or even to look in it. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. Look, the Lion from the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has conquered so that he is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." Then I saw one like a slaughtered lamb standing in the midst of the throne and the 4 living creatures and among the elders. He had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent into all the earth. He went and took the scroll out of the right hand of the one seated on the throne. When he took the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb. Each one had a harp and golden bowls filled with incense, which are the prayers of the saints, and they sang a new song. "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slaughtered. And you purchased people for God by your blood, from every tribe and language and people and nation. You made them a kingdom and priests to our God, and they will reign on the earth." Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels around the throne, and also the living creatures and of the elders. Their number was countless thousands plus thousands of thousands. And they said with a loud voice, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slaughtered to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing." I heard every creature in heaven, on earth, under the earth, on the sea, and everything in them say, "Blessing and honor and glory and power be to the one seated on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever." The 4 living creatures said, "Amen," and the elders fell down and worshipped. There's so much in this text that we could stop and look at. There are so many different things that we could draw out of this. And I think the easiest way to get as much as we can from it is literally just to break it down into some small little chunks and just work through it a little bit at a time. So we're going to go through kind of the first 5 verses first. And in those we have a scroll. It's got writing on both sides. We have this voice who is declaring and speaking. And this scroll, if you read on through Revelation, it's kind of there to help us picture something that brings the fulfillment of everything together. This scroll being opened and read is like the culmination of all things being brought together. And the number 7 in Revelation is often there. It's to symbolize fullness and completeness. And so we have this scroll that's to be read, and we have it perfectly sealed with these 7 seals, and it's the bringing together of everything. And the question is this: who is there that's worthy to open the scroll? Who is it? Remember, we're in the throne room of heaven. There are angels around. There are these heavenly creatures around. There are these elders around. There is the one who is holding the scroll that is worthy of praise, and we're looking round. Where is the one to open the scroll? John looks around and he can't see anyone. Has all of this been in vain? Has he learned all of this? Does he know that there is a God who is good, who can bring everything together, who can restore humanity and God together and bring them together? And he can see all of this. It's almost within reach, and yet there is no one that can open this scroll. And his reaction is to weep. But, says the elder, don't weep. Look, Here he comes, the Lion of Judah, the Root of David, the one who has conquered, the one who is worthy to open the scroll. How does Jesus introduce himself to us in this? Well, if we think through the first 7 letters that we read through in the first kind of 2 or 3 chapters, what we read are the following really short descriptions of Jesus. We read that he's the one who holds the 7 stars in his hand and walks among the lampstands. That he is the first, the last, the one who was dead and came to life, the one with the sharp double-edged sword, the one whose eyes are like flame, whose feet are like bronze, the one who has the 7 spirits and the 7 stars, the Holy One, the true one, the one who has the key of David, the Amen, the faithful one, the true witness, the originator of God's creation. How will this Jesus appear in the throne room? What will he look like when he comes in? What does the worthy one appear like? He appears like the slaughtered one. Is that who you would expect to come in next? Given everything that we know about Jesus, is that how you would have expected him to appear? Because when you hear the word slaughtered, what does it bring to mind for you? It's an ugly term, isn't it? It brings to mind mess, blood, death. It's not a pretty image. Is it one that you would associate with the one who is worthy to bring all things together? But this is no accident. This is no accident. And actually, this imagery should cause us great joy, because when Jesus appears like this, we see one who is humble, because he is prepared to show us everything that he has been through. He doesn't hide away or mask anything. He shows us what it is that he has had to experience to be the one who is worthy. He doesn't appear with all the hallmarks of a king or a powerful leader, but in a sense he appears showing what could very easily be perceived as weakness. He appears showing the fact that he died. But in this demonstration, what we actually see is his ultimate strength and his ultimate victory. And appearing as the one who's been slain, he takes the scroll. And as he does so, he reveals to us both his humanity and his godliness. Because he's the one, the only one that is worthy, and yet is also the one who died. Jesus' death on the cross is the cornerstone of our faith. Without his death, we have nothing. But with it, we get to know God. We get to know him personally for ourselves. Not just about him, but an intimate relationship with him. And it's, as Sam articulated it so much better than I could, it means that whatever is going on, I have someone I can talk to. I have someone that I can speak to. Someone that I can look up to and say, I haven't got this, but you have. I don't know how this is going to play out, but you do. That in the hardest of situations, I can put my faith and trust in someone I know is good, I know is faithful, I know is loving, and I know is kind. When I have nothing else, I can turn to him and I can trust him. But it was costly. It was costly for Jesus. Because God has got his best for us. And his best is holiness. His best is blamelessness and righteousness. But these aren't things that come in spectrums. These are in and out camps. You're holy or you're not. Blameless or not. Righteous or not. And I know if I look at my own life, it more often than not falls into the not camp. In fact, I can pretty confidently say it's almost always in the not camp. But God has got better than that for me. God has got better. And he doesn't want me to settle for anything less than his best. And what I find then is as I try and work harder, as I try and achieve and look good and do the things that I think that he's calling me to do, as I strive to live the life that I think that I should do because of who he is, as I strive to kind of achieve something and even just have 10 minutes of holiness, all I realize is just how far away I am, that I can't do it, that I can't make it. And it reminds me of the story of the Tower of Babel, where mankind decided our way of saying, God, we don't need you. We are going to build a tower. We are going to make a great name for ourselves. We're going to build so high. We're going to go on and we're going to live in a way where we're going to show you, God, that we don't need you. We don't need you to have a name, to go on living on and on and on. God, we don't need you to be involved in our lives. And God's kindness and love and mercy to the people in that time was to come down and to confuse them, was to come down and muddle up their languages so that they dispersed, they spread out, because in his kindness and love, he put them in a position where they are forced to realize that they do need help, that there is better for them. The question for us then is this, and it's a hard one to hear, but do you know that you need a Saviour? Do you know that you need help? And do you know that Jesus is the only one who can do it? I know I need him so much. I know that I need his death on the cross. I know I need his perfect work for me. He stands in the gap for us. He takes on the punishment that was due to us, and he takes it on himself. On the cross, he was literally slaughtered in our place. His blood spilt. And in Romans, it tells us that in doing so, he didn't just wash us clean, but he makes us new. He makes us new creations. It says, the old has gone and the new has come. He gives us a new heart, a new identity. And this new identity, it's so intertwined with his that afterwards, whatever happens, they can't be separated again. His perfect work is so good that as our lives gets tangled up in his, they're caught up with him forever. It is a perfect, complete, one-time finished work that cannot be undone. And he did this for us before we even knew who he was, before we achieved anything, because he wanted us to know that it was nothing that we had done. It was his gift to us, his kindness to us, his love to us. And that alone was enough for him to do this. So Jesus appears as the slaughtered one. And he takes the scroll. And in verse 8, and then it says that the elders fall down and they sing a new song. They sing, you are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals because you were slaughtered. And you purchased people for God by your blood from every tribe and language, people and nation. You made them a kingdom and priests to our God, and they will reign on earth. What an amazing song. What a declaration. But what is it that made him worthy? Was it that he purchased a people? Was it that he made them into a kingdom? Was it that he put them in position to rule over everything? No. It was the fact that he was slaughtered. This comes up so much, time and time again. And all of those things were achieved because of what happened to him. But what do we think about when we think about what makes us worthy of recognition, of praise, of people's respect and honor, of being listened to? Because we all have areas, don't we, where we think that actually we're quite knowledgeable about something, or we've got experiences that mean that we can speak into situations and say certain things. And what is it that we stand on? Is it our talents, our abilities, our experience, our backgrounds? Whatever it is, Jesus models something different. His worthiness is based on sacrifice. Not on what he had, but on what he gave. Not on everything that was due to him, but on everything that he poured out. Jesus can heal our physical bodies, but one day they will fail us again. Everything that we receive in this life, whether it is our health, our money, our children, our friends, our jobs, our hobbies, everything is temporary apart from Jesus. Everything is temporary apart from him. And Jesus does give us amazing things, but we celebrate because of who he is. Even the disciples at one point came to Jesus and they said, "Jesus, isn't it amazing? People are being healed, demons are fleeing." And Jesus said to them, "Don't celebrate in that. Rejoice in the fact that your name is written down in heaven. That is the thing to celebrate and rejoice in. Everything else is secondary to that." Even as the elders fall down and worship and sing this song, they don't even sing, "Jesus, you're worthy because you rose again." They sing, "You're worthy because you were slain. You were the slaughtered one." So what is the response to this? What's the reaction? This is verses 11 through to 14. The living creatures and countless angels and the elders speak, and they say, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slaughtered to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing." And every creature then joins in. On the earth, under the earth, in the sea, wherever they are, and they say, "Blessing and honor, glory and power be to the one seated on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever." As we see the Father and as we see the Son, we start to comprehend everything that they have done. There is only one right response: worship. It's to praise. And this worship, it's more than just a song. It's more than just the words. It's a declaration. It's a proclamation. It's an act of giving Jesus and the Father everything that they are worth, because they are worthy of it all. Blessing, we give to God everything because everything we have is from him. If we have something, it is only because he gave it to us, and we pour it back out to him as our worship and our praise. honor because he is so holy. He is so other than us. He is so good. He is so righteous. We need him. He doesn't need us. We need him. And so we say, all honor is to you. Glory, because his is the ultimate victory. There is no one else who is victorious like our King Jesus. And so all glory belongs to him. And power, because Jesus is at the right hand of the Father. He is sustaining everything by the power of his word. Before there was anything, when there was only God, God spoke and creation became. He spoke and creation came into being. Right now, he is sat down, sustaining everything by the power of his word. He's not rushing around. And while he's doing all of that, he's also speaking to the Father on our behalf. And the four living creatures hear this and they say, Amen. Yes. There's nothing else to say. I'm sure you will all know, but today is Palm Sunday. And on Palm Sunday, we remember that Jesus rode into Jerusalem. You can read the story in Matthew 21, but the very short version of it is this. He rode in, and in the way that he did so, he appeared as a king. He rode in a royal fashion. But the only crown that Jesus would receive would be the crown of thorns. The only throne that he would end up on would be the cross. He appeared as a king, but it turns out that he looked like a king that was very different to what anyone was expecting. And our part of Revelation today is the same thing. He appears as a king, but the king appears as the slaughtered one. It's not how we would expect our king to arrive, but it's what he does. If I can get the band to come up. Jesus does this so often. His way of doing things is so often to turn things around, to take our preconceived idea of how things should play out and to flip them on their heads. He takes our idea of what's important, of who's important, and he turns it upside down. You know, just as I had to lift my boys onto my shoulders so that they could get a better perspective, we need to see Jesus from a heavenly perspective. And as Jesus shows us who he really is, in the light of it, we find out who we really are. We find out who it is that we're called to be and what we're called to do. And what he calls us to is to surrender. It's to lay down our lives. And we have to acknowledge that in order to truly live, we need to die. To die to ourselves and every day pick up our own cross. And in doing so, when we live our lives this way, we live for something, for someone more than ourselves. We live for someone of eternal significance. And it means that whatever we do going through our lives become of so much worth and value because they become our acts of worship. And when we live our lives looking to Jesus first, it's our way of declaring blessing and honor, glory and power to the one seated on the throne and to the Lamb forever. Can I invite you to stand? I just want to pray for us before we have one more song. Jesus, I pray that you would open our eyes, that you would lift our gaze to see just how worthy of all praise you are. Would you give us hearts that are open that you would be the one that we shape our lives around. Help us to see that you are the one who is truly worthy of all worship and praise. And help us to live our lives as our offering of worship to you. I ask that in your name, Jesus. Amen.